In today's video, I'm going to show you how easy it is to make buttonholes with this machine. What I have is a Sears & Roebuck Kenmore model number 158.13413. This machine was made in Taiwan, not that that means anything, but just throwing that in there for information. Making buttonholes, it's as easy as turning a dial. While I'm finishing up a sewing project, I thought it would be a good opportunity to share how to make buttonholes. One thing I really like about this machine is that there are no special attachments to add to make the buttonholes. Some machines have this big old contraption you have to add in order to do buttonholes or to sew on buttons. I prefer sewing my buttons on by hand. This Kenmore can do a variety of different stitches besides the straight stitch and the zigzag stitch. There are 3 settings to choose between to select. You use the top black dial to select the different stitches. I typically just use the setting on the right for both straight and zigzag stitching. The bottom black dial is where you select your stitch width from 0 to as wide as 4. Here is stitches per inch dial. 8 to 6 is usually used for stay stitching or basting stitches because they're easier to pull out. I mostly sew around 10 stitches per inch, but there are rare times you may want more stitches per inch. On the front dial, the orange dot is where you would have it for doing straight stitching or zigzag stitches or special stitches. I turn it back to my usual standard of 10 stitches per inch. Now, when you want to do special stitches, as selected from the top, there's a setting SL. You can have it anywhere between the S and L. Closer to the L, you have longer stitches. So when you're closer to the S, you have shorter stitches. L for length and S for shorter. I am sewing a little dress for one of my granddaughters, so I thought I would take the opportunity to share how to do buttonholes since I have to do several buttonholes on this little outfit. Looking through my jars of buttons, I'm trying to find the right button for this project. The trouble with buying these jars, these Walmart cheap jars of buttons, is you don't get too many of the same kind. It's hard to find matching buttons. They might be great for doing button art or button crafts, but for sewing projects, it's almost a waste of money to buy these jars. You're better off just going out and selecting the exact button you want and get the right quantity you need for the project. I really do need to come up with some button art to use up these buttons. I have far more buttons than I need. I did manage, however, to find enough buttons for this small project. Alright, now let's put it into action. I mark my buttonhole location with 2 pins. Now, for doing buttonholes, I keep the stitch length on 0, and I chose the right position for both zigzag and straight stitch. I do not change my stitch per inch dial, I just leave that alone. The simplicity of doing buttonholes with this machine is this front dial right here. It has 3 settings. The center does the end stitches of a buttonhole. You start at the top of the buttonhole. The left position stitches the left side from top to bottom. See the down arrow? The right dial sews the right side of the buttonhole from bottom to top, just as the arrow indicates. Alright, now let's put this in action. Start with the center setting. Make sure you have the right plate for sewing zigzag stitches before beginning. I like to remove the first pin once I have my garment in place, ready to stitch. The hole will be centered between the toes of my presser foot. When it sews the beginning of the hole, notice that the garment stays in one place. I have slowed it down so you can see that. Now turn the dial for the left position. Always make sure the needle is up when switching position, or you might break a needle. This will move the garment as it stitches the left side of the buttonhole. Stop when you come to the last pin. I remove the last pin before stitching the bottom of the buttonhole. Set the dial back to center. To finish the buttonhole, set the dial to the right side. You can see the machine moves the garment in the opposite direction without any extra effort on your part. I like to make just a couple more stitches back at the top of the center. The buttonhole is done. I will show one more hole without cutting the footage so that you can see how quickly one hole can be done. This angle will show me changing the dial. The picture-in-picture will show you the setting the dial is on through the process. Less than 1 minute to sew a buttonhole. It's that easy with this machine. I prefer to sew my buttons on by hand because I want to make sure they don't fall off, that they're secure. I purposefully chose to sew little X's in green thread on the white buttons for designed feature. I thought that would be cute, little green X's. A sewing machine can't do that. I like to finish up a few buttonholes at a time and button the garment up to make sure that the placement of my holes line up exactly where I want them because I already sewed my buttons on. I can feel the shape of the buttonhole beneath the fabric so that my pins will be placed exactly right. I use a seam ripper to cut a little hole. Be careful not to use too much force, you'll cut right through your stitches. And then I use my scissors to finish cutting the hole. I hope you found value in this short tutorial. Please subscribe for more sewing tips. Please check out my playlist, Sewing Tips and Projects, for more tutorials and helps. Thanks for watching.